All right, so let's compare Trump's economic plan with Harris's. Because let's face it, a lot of people seem to think that Trump would be better for them on the economy. So let's see if it bears fruit. So this article is titled, Trump's plan would add $4 trillion more to U.S. debt compared to Harris's, analysts say. So that's not good. Not good at all. For people who seem to think that the debt is a problem, and let's face it, a lot of these Republicans, in the government Republicans, when a Republican is in office, suddenly their concern about the debt goes away. But when a Democrat is in office, suddenly the debt is the most pressing issue ever. So let's get into the details. With less than a month left until Election Day, both the Harris and Trump campaigns have presented their economic visions to the American people, including proposed tax cuts, border security spending, and affordable housing policies. But it's still unclear how much these plans will cost and how they will be paid for. Now, before we dive into this, the thing that bugs me about the how will they be paid for is literally whenever military spending is brought up, nobody asks how will it be paid for. But when it comes to just about anything else, especially when it comes to social safety net, people freak out about how is it going to be paid for. But anyway, a new report from the nonpartisan Nonprofit Committee for Responsible Federal Budget finds that both former President Donald Trump and Vice President Harris will deepen the national debt to pay for their initiatives. Trump's estimated economic plan would sink the nation $7.5 trillion further into debt over the next decade, while Harris's estimated proposals would cost the government half that, around $3.5 trillion. Now, considering most Democratic presidents, I'm unsure about Biden, but this definitely happened under Obama, that the debt was paid off, that it wasn't as bad as what he inherited. So, I'm not thrilled. Not thrilled at all. Whoever wins the 2024 presidential election will face an unprecedented fiscal situation upon taking office, according to the Committee for Responsible Federal Budgets report. Both Republican and Democratic candidates for president have put forward campaign plans that would, at best, maintain the status quo and at worst add tremendously to our debt and deficits. The report said their estimate comes with a high degree of uncertainty because of lack of specifics from both campaigns. The estimates for Harris's plan range from adding $0 to $8.1 trillion to the debt, while the forecasts for Trump range from $1.5 trillion to $15.2 trillion. So think about that. No matter what Trump's plan is, it's going to add to the debt, whereas possibly Harris wouldn't. Now, again, we don't have enough specifics to know for certain, but as of now, that's how it looks. Okay, so let's see. Let's get to some details, I think. The committee warned of an eventual fiscal crisis if politicians don't address the national debt more forcefully. The nonprofit also provided an overview of the candidates' competing economic visions, pulled from campaign websites, emails, speeches, social media posts, and discussions with campaign staff. All right, so both Harris and Trump plan to extend portions of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, or TCJA, a law passed in 2017 that made major changes to the tax code. The law is set to expire in 2025. Extending the TCJA is the most expensive portion of both campaigns' economic plans, totaling $3 trillion for Harris and $5.4 trillion for Trump, according to the report. The difference between the two costs come from Harris's promise that no one earning less than $400,000 a year will pay more in taxes, meaning Americans earning less than that will continue to benefit from the TCJA tax cuts, while those making more than that will not. Meanwhile, Trump has promised to make the Trump tax cuts permanent for all those who benefited from the law initially. Notably, Trump has promised to end the $10,000 cap on deductions for state and local taxes, known as SALT, which has become a contentious political issue. Now, for those who are unaware, the tax cuts, granted, some of them did help the middle class to an extent, but most of it was to the rich, because that's all Trump cares about, is what would benefit him personally. He doesn't really give a crap about anyone else. All right. Both the Harris and Trump campaigns have promised to eliminate taxes on tips, despite the shaking heads of economists. Trump proposed the policy first after a visit to Las Vegas, which Trump is upset that Harris is copying him, which, that's generally what happens during campaigns. If there's something that seems to be popular, other politicians are going to jump on it because, well, they want to get elected. So, yeah. But the Harris campaign told NPR their plan is distinct, as their policy would have caps on salary, meaning to prevent high earners from marking all their salary as tipped wages and taking advantage of the policy. The Harris campaign said it also plans to increase the minimum wage in tandem with not taxing tips. All right. The Committee for Responsible Federal Budget estimated Harris's no tax on tips policy would cost $200 billion over 10 years, while Trump's would cost $300 billion. And they don't give a time period for that one, so I assume that would also be over 10 years. The former president has also proposed a blanket tax exemption for overtime pay. The committee listed this as the second most expensive portion of his economic vision, costing the U.S. government some $2 trillion over 10 years in lost taxes. I get it. He's trying to appeal to the working class because, let's face it, he actually doesn't give a shit about them, but I don't know if he's actually going to go through with that. I really don't. He has been known to do the boneheaded business thing, so maybe he would, but Trump's call for an end to taxes on Social Security benefits is the third most costly part of his plan. Between 50% to 80% of Social Security benefits are taxed, the committee said. Cutting those funds would increase the deficit by $1.3 trillion, it found. Considering the Republicans seem to want to cut Social Security and gut it, I'm actually surprised that he proposed that. Again, whether he would actually go through with that is a different story. Harris has no plan to cut taxes on overtime pay or on Social Security benefits, according to the report. Okay, The second most expensive portion of Harris's economic plan is her proposed expansion of the child tax credit, which currently gives most parents a $2,000 per child tax credit. As president, Harris would make the CTC fully refundable, expand eligibility to 17-year-olds, and increase the size of the CTC to $6,000 for newborns, $3,600 for other children under 6, and $3,000 for children 6 and under, the report said. The expansion of the CTC would cost $1.4 trillion over 10 years. While Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, said he supports a child tax credit increase, the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget didn't include it in its analysis. Okay, so border spending. Both Harris and Trump promised to increase border security. The Democratic presidential candidate said she would sign the bipartisan border security bill if passed, which would hire more Border Patrol agents, asylum officers, immigration judges, and others. The bill failed to pass in a divided Congress earlier this year and would have cost $100 billion over a decade. So basically, she's wanting to pass the bill that Trump killed because he wanted to campaign on immigration. On border security, Trump said he would implement the largest deportation program in American history, while also finishing the border wall and strengthening the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, also known as ICE. The committee estimated Trump's immigration plan would cost $350 billion over 10 years, but it also noted significant uncertainty given few details on Trump's mass deportation plans. And I've read economists have been saying that if the mass deportations happen, that the economy would tank. And that's simply because undocumented workers do jobs that Americans don't want to do, like picking fruit. I mean, most Americans actually, there aren't any Americans that I'm aware of who have actually complained that undocumented workers took their job as a fruit picker. So, yeah, if we have no more fruit pickers, guess what's going to happen to the fruit? It's not going to get picked, and we're going to have to import all that fruit because, well, there's nobody to pick it and send it out to be sent to shopping centers. My God, I cannot talk suddenly. Okay, affordable housing. Both Harris and Trump plan to address the high cost of housing, but their methods differ. Harris's plan to give first-time homebuyers a tax credit and would seek to boost housing construction through tax incentives for new homes, while also expanding the low-income housing tax credit. These plans have a $250 billion price tag, according to the committee. Meanwhile, Trump plans to lean solely on tax incentives to help new homeowners. The campaign hasn't released any details of exactly how. While the Trump campaign has not provided specifics on these tax credits, one option would be to revive the $8,000 first-time home buyer tax credit that was in effect in 2009 and 2010, the committee's report said. With this assumption, the committee forecasted Trump's housing plan would cost $150 billion over the next decade. All right, let's get into health care. Harris's planned expansion of Affordable Care Act subsidies is estimated to cost $550 billion over 10 years. The ACA allows Americans without employer-provided or government-sponsored health insurance to get covered with income-based tax credit subsidies, lowering the overall cost of getting coverage. Harris's plans to make recent increases in these subsidies permanent, according to the deficit analysis. Meanwhile, Trump promises his administration will have the government or insurers pay for in vitro fertilization treatments, and we will also allow new parents to deduct major newborn expenses from their taxes, Trump said this summer. The group said it did not receive specifics from the Trump campaign. Based on public statements, it estimated this plan would cost $150 billion over a decade. All right, now the biggie, taxes versus tariffs. Because a lot of people seem to think that Trump's tariffs on everything seems to be a panacea to all our economic ills, because nobody seems to know what the fuck tariffs are. All right. Both Harris and Trump intend to offset the massive costs of their plans by making the government money elsewhere. Harris intended to generate revenue through taxes on corporations and high earners, those making more than $400,000 per year. These actions would bring in $4.3 trillion, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. The Harris White House would bring in another $250 billion in reduced spending on prescription drugs, it estimated. Trump, on the other hand, intends to raise revenue with heavy tariffs on foreign imports and with a reduction of policies to protect the environment, which is expected to allow oil companies to drill on protected lands and generate tax revenue. The committee said these plans would generate $3.7 trillion over 10 years. Neither Harris or Trump's revenue plans would fully cover their projected costs, the groups found. Now, may I just point out that in addition to heavy tariffs, which it's not the foreign countries that they put the tariffs on that pays for the tariffs. We pay for the tariffs. That is totally not how tariffs work. They do not, just like Mexico did not pay for the wall, foreign countries do not pay for tariffs put on their products. We do that. The point of tariffs is a protective tariff. The idea is that we want to sell our own goods and lessen the chance that Americans will spend money on foreign products, because we're an upstart industry. We want to get people to invest in American manufactured goods. So you put tariffs on foreign goods, so they're more expensive. So of course you're going to want to pay for the cheaper option. It isn't a tax on foreign nations sending their goods here. That's not what it is. Plus, Trump wants to drill, baby, drill. So, okay, great. We're going to make more money in the short term. And we're going to have pollution, so people are going to end up dying. But yeah, a few people are going to make some money, which obviously is more important than keeping people alive. Anyway, and let's face it, it's protected lands for a reason. So, all right, I read that already. So that is the end of that article. So that is all we have for both the Harris and Trump plans. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.